Welcome to Hardcore Haunter.
This channel is proudly created in part by AI technology.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the hallowed grounds of Eternal Rest Cemetery. I'm your host, standing amidst the whispering stones and shadowed crypts, inviting you to join us on this moonlit night. We hope you'll find solace and intrigue as you wander these sacred paths. Stay close, dear listeners, for tonight we unearth a tale as old as the graves themselves, a serious yet fascinating history of grave robbers and their tangled dance with the noble gravediggers. So, settle in and let us begin. Our story begins centuries ago, in the mist-shrouded churchyards of medieval Europe, where the term grave robber first slithered into the lexicon. Back then, they were called Resurrectionists, a grimly poetic nod to their trade, plundering fresh graves under cover of night to supply cadavers to medical schools. You see, in the 1600s and 1700s, the study of anatomy was blossoming, but the law permitted only the bodies of executed criminals for dissection. Demand far outstripped supply, and thus the resurrectionists crept forth, shovels in hand, to liberate the newly buried. It was a ghoulish enterprise, but one born of necessity, or so they claimed. Now let's tip our hats to the grave diggers, honest folk toiling in the earth's embrace, known in their trade as sextons or groundkeepers. These were the keepers of the sod, tasked with preparing final resting places with reverence and precision. Their jargon was rich. A plot was never just land, but a sacred measure, a spade's depth, the standard 6 feet, and turning the earth a solemn act of farewell. Yet these diggers were no strangers to the darker side of their craft. They'd often find their handiwork disturbed, a plot lifted in their terms, meaning a grave robbed, the coffin pried open, the body gone. To a grave digger, this was not just theft, but desecration, a violation of the trust placed in them by the bereaved. By the early 1800s, the tension between grave robbers and grave diggers reached a fever pitch, particularly in Britain. Resurrectionists, like the infamous Burke and Hare, took their trade to monstrous extremes, bypassing graves altogether to murder and sell their victims' bodies. The public was horrified, and gravediggers, often the first to notice tampered plots, became unwitting sentinels. They began to fight back in their own way. Some employed mort-safes, iron cages locked over graves to thwart robbers. Others, in their earthy parlance, set a watch, patrolling churchyards with lanterns and cudgels. The diggers' role grew heroic in the public eye, their shovels symbols of protection as much as labor. But the grave robbers were cunning. They developed their own slang, a shadow to the diggers' jargon. A snatch was a quick grave theft, a moonlight job one done under lunar glow. They'd bribe sextons or ply them with ale, exploiting the diggers' meager wages. Some diggers, sadly, turned crook-spaded, a term for those who colluded with robbers for a cut of the profits. This betrayal stung deeply, for grave digging was a calling, not just a trade. The honest majority, though, held firm, their loyalty to the dead unwavering. As the 19th century waned, reforms like the Anatomy Act of 1832 in Britain allowed legal cadaver donations, drying up the resurrectionists' trade. Grave robbing faded, but its legacy lingered in the diggers' lore. They spoke of haunted plots, graves left empty by thieves, and ghostly shifts, nights spent guarding against imagined robbers. The public, meanwhile, grew fascinated by these tales, weaving them into Gothic novels and fireside stories. Grave robbers became folkloric villains, their specter looming over every foggy churchyard. Fast forward to today, dear listeners, and the grave robber is largely a relic, replaced by modern fears, vandalism perhaps, or rare cases of artifact theft from historic sites. Grave diggers, now often called cemetery technicians, use backhoes alongside spades, but their jargon endures. A deep cut for a burial, a restless plot for one disturbed by nature or time. Their role remains sacred, though less perilous. Yet the old stories shape how we see them, especially come Halloween. The holiday, with its ghouls and ghosts, owes much to the grave robber's grim legend. Public perception of Halloween, full of skeletons and spooky tales, draws directly from those 19th-century terrors when graves were plundered and diggers stood guard. It's a curious circle. What was once a real horror now fuels our festive frights, turning cemeteries into stages for haunted tours and eerie revelry. And so, we come full circle, from the Resurrectionists' shovels to the diggers' steadfast watch, to the jack-o'-lanterns glowing tonight. The grave robber's shadow has faded, but it lingers in our imaginations, a reminder of the delicate line between reverence and violation. As you stroll these grounds, dear guests, spare a thought for the grave diggers, past and present, who turn the earth with care. Enjoy your evening, but tread lightly. After all, every plot tells a story, and some secrets are best left buried.